Good evening. Okay, that might be a little bit loud. Welcome. Oh, still too loud. Okay. I'll moderate my voice very, very quietly. I won't lower your ears. Welcome. Oh, still too loud. We will do our candidate casino. And what that is, we will welcome a few candidates not in the forum this evening. We'll give them 60 seconds. No? Okay. It feels okay. I'm trying to whisper. I'm not a whisper type of guy. So I would like to invite up to the podium an old friend, the Reverend Willie Davis. Where are you, Willie? Willie is running for City Council at Large, position number 2.
Very good. Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna certainly at least I'm approach this mic a little different because I'm used to using my preacher's voice. So, and oftentimes that can be without a mic. Let me begin by saying I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, be here from both of these gentlemen. But I certainly want to, for many of you don't know, I did run for this position back in 2015. And there was 5 of us in that race. And I got in the race on the last day of filing, and I ended up in the runoff with the incumbent. Yeah. And let me just say, I'm running for this. My cards are about everything about what I'm running for. Number one, I'm running under the theme, let's keep Houston safe. And what I mean by that is everything relative to Houston and around Houston. The next mayor of our city has got to have a strong council. And that's what I represent. I think our city has for too long suffered with suits in seats. And we need to suffer with servants in seats. So I'm going to run, and I'm running for keeping our city safe, balancing the budget, keeping our police and our city workers and fire department in place. God bless you. I really intend to have your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Willie. All right, next up, may I please welcome Erica McCrutchen. Erica is running for City Council at Large, number 4.
Why y'all looking at me like that? I guess y'all trying to figure out who is she and why is she here? Well, my name is Erica McCrutchen, and I am running for City Council at Large, position number 4. And as Reverend Willie said, I have my card here too. And this is my first time around. And I want you all to know that I'm running because I believe in the city of Houston. And there's some things that we are facing in our city, and we need good leadership. And I am strong, and I'm dependable, and I'm determined to be a part of that change that Houston needs. So my slogan is your choice for change. And if you want to talk to me a little more after this, I'll be happy to do so. Remember, Erica McCrutchen at Large 4, your choice for change.
That was under time, too. That was a record. That was a record. Okay.
I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, but it was.
May I please welcome now our Vice President of the Lake Houston Pachyderm Club, Ms. Leslie Chateau.
Thank you, everybody. Wow, what a night and what a crowd. And I just want to thank everybody for staying on top of their RSVP, and I want to thank everybody who had a guest that couldn't make it, releasing their RSVPs so that we can allow our waiting guests. How much we would love to have all these wonderful guests in the building tonight as our new members. We started a lofty goal of maybe 45 or 50 people as our membership, and we've grown it to 62 as of last month. And our goal is to reach 100 members in this club and double this club by the end of the year. So if you have friends that would really love to come out and hear great political speakers and events that we do each month, the second Monday of every month but July and August, we're fixing to take a break and have summer. And so every other month, September through June, we have our meetings on the second Monday night right here at Tosca Americana. And we hope that you'll, going into the fall, invite a friend or a neighbor and help us grow our club. We do have membership forms for anybody who wants to join tonight, or maybe thought they had already joined but they're not, but they'd like to go on and do that. We have some membership forms at the back, and I'll be back there taking credit cards, and we take checks. I guess we'll take cash if you have the right amount. But that's our program for that. I do want to let everybody know that we do have a summer newsletter, and anyone attending tonight and our members that are not in attendance tonight will be getting this via email. The subject line will say summer newsletter, and there's some very important information about that, about how we're moving forward, and some upcoming dates, and the rest of our meeting dates for the rest of the year. The final thing that we need, and the reason we have such success tonight, everyone, is because in our last meeting, we made a concerted effort to ask everyone that was at that meeting, would they like to come to the next one, so we didn't have to herd cats for a whole month. And it worked so well, and thank you again, everyone, for participating in that, and also inviting others to come tonight. So we've got these on your tables. They're in black and white, mine's in color, but we've got these on the tables, and anybody that's a current member or is joining tonight, so check new member, we would like for you to fill this out so that we can reserve your seat for our City Council Forum that's going to be in this format here when we resume September 9th. So if you'll please do that, and just make sure you find the form and get your name on it, and make sure we have your accurate contact information, we'll make sure you will have a seat at our forum. And only non-member and other guests that aren't here tonight. So what does that tell everybody? It tells everybody that if we're full tonight and everybody wants to come back, we don't have any additional spaces. So if you want to come, please come, and we will look forward to welcoming you in September. And again, thank you for your time.
For us tonight. Thank you, Chef Eddie. We'd also like to welcome all of our guests, all of our first-time visitors. It's a wonderful night. Thank you all for being here. Something special we do every meeting is we always like to acknowledge all of our elected officials. So if you are an elected official, please stand up. Please be recognized. We want to thank you for all the work that you do. All of our elected officials, please stand up. Thank you all. Thank you all. I want to acknowledge one little VIP. It's my little guy named Pierce. He's all in the back. He is 1 month old, and he came here because he said, not much. But he wanted to be here. We call him a little football because you carry him like a football, and he hates to be dropped. All right, I'd like to welcome up Miss Pat Moreland to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Miss Pat. And now I'd like to welcome up Mr. Rick Walker to lead us in the pledge to the great state of Texas.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Now may I call up Ms. Robin Lennon to lead us in tonight's prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, true source of all light, light and wisdom, graciously let your light penetrate the darkness of our understanding. Lord, give us a keen understanding of the issues, direct our progress, and help us in the completion of our task. Please, Lord, use our efforts and this organization to help reestablish our nation once more under you with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Robin. Before we begin, I saw a quote the other day. I was looking for funny jokes to say at a mayor's forum, and the internet failed me. But one quote I did find, which I thought was nice, and I want to thank all the people who are here. It's because the people who are here are the people who care. And there's a great line. Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. And it's so true. And so I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. And now, Chef Eddie, we are ready for an update from Washington. So in just a moment, they'll hit the play. Hold on.
Hi, I'm Texas Senator John Cornyn. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person, but I wanted to give you a quick update on what we've been doing in the Senate. In the past couple of weeks, we've confirmed more of President Trump's nominees, including a Texan to serve as an Assistant Secretary of Interior. We also held a hearing on another Texas District Judge nominee recommended to the President by myself and Senator Cruz. All told, we've confirmed 112 new judges, including 11 in Texas. More than 1 out of every 5 appellate judges in the country now has been appointed by President Trump. Also last week, Congress passed a disaster aid bill that impacts Texas and especially Houston. Unfortunately, billions of dollars in aid approved last year for Hurricane Harvey recovery were stalled and still have not reached the folks who need them. The provision I authored and supported by Senator Cruz was included in this bill to force the release of those resources. The Texas Gulf Coast has been through enough, and I'm hopeful now these resources will get to the folks who still need them. Thanks for letting me say a few words, and I hope you enjoy the forum.
I always wondered, are you supposed to clap at the end of a video? It's like
We're
you
clapping for you for getting it.
Yeah, when you go to a movie theater and at the end of the movie people start clapping, I always thought, is that appropriate? Okay, thank you for Senator Cornyn. I'll thank him now. That was very nice of him. Okay, quick introductions, and then we'll begin the forum. To my left, Mr. Tony Buzbee. He is a trial attorney. He is a combat Marine veteran. He currently serves on the Board of Regents of Texas A&M University. And sitting across from me is Mr. Bill King. He is a businessman. He's a lawyer. He's an author and a former mayor of Pima. Welcome, Mr. Bill King.
All right.
Sorry. Okay, let me read you the forum rules. We have a bit of an uncommon methodology tonight. I think we'll make it more entertaining, more fun, and I think you'll get the most out of our 2 participants tonight. Time will be kept by the moderator, Ms. Colleen Rose. Can you hold up your sign, please? She will hold up the sign at a 15-second warning, and then she'll also, very subtly and discreetly, of course, and then she'll flip it over and time is ended or stopped. The candidates will alternate who answers each question first. A coin flip was done in the back room over here, and Mr. O'King will answer the first question first.
I wasn't there for the flip.
Typical lawyer. Following the opening remarks, which will be 2 minutes long, each further question will be 1 minute. So the first person who, I should also say, each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. If desired, the candidate who answers the first question will be granted an additional 30-second rebuttal after the second candidate answers the question. Questions will only be repeated upon request, and the final question will serve as closing remarks, which will be timed at 2 minutes. Just so everyone knows, both candidates were notified of the rules, given a copy of a list of roughly 35 questions, potential questions, I should say, in advance of this evening. I reprioritized them this afternoon. No one else has seen it but myself. And just so everyone knows, tonight's questions were submitted by our members, by our board of the Lake Houston Packet Room Club, and then were curated by our question committee. All right, that was a mouthful. Is everybody still with me? All right. If this goes well, I get to be a game show host. All right, so the first question, which will serve as the opening remarks, Mr. Bill King will go first. And the question to answer during these opening remarks are, why are you running for mayor, and what are your top 3 priorities when you're sworn into office?
There we go. Is that working? Yeah. Well, it's great to be back here in Kingwood and Lake Houston again. I feel like I ought to be paying taxes up here as much as I've been up here in the last few years. I think this is my 4th or 5th visit to this club. I've always had an affinity for the Kingwood area because I grew up down in Clear Lake, so I know what it's like to live in occupied territory. I thought your quote about if you're not interested in politics, they'll be interested in you. Like you might get annexed if you're not paying attention. Let me tell you a number that I bet none of you have ever heard before. Do you have any idea how much you guys pay in property taxes to the city of Houston every year? If based on a pro-rata portion, it's about $65 million a year. Now the truth is you pay more than a pro-rata because your houses are more valuable than the average house in Houston, $5 million. So you're paying right at $100 million to the city of Houston. And oh, by the way, you pay another $35 million to Metro. So Metro and the city of Houston are taking something like $135 million a year out of this community. Is there anybody here that thinks you're getting value of 10% of that number? I'll bet not a single one. What you folks need is a mayor that cares about something other than just downtown and those surrounding areas. And I feel it having grown up in Clear Lake. Look, last time, if you'll recall, I came within 3,989 votes of beating Sylvester Turner. Awesome. More or less, not that I'm counting or anything. In Kingwood and in Lake Houston, there were 40,000 registered voters that did not vote in the runoff in December 10 times the number of votes I needed to take Sylvester Turner out last time. This time, you guys are going to get me there.
Thank you, Bill. Mr. Tony Buzbee.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Buzbee. I'm not responsible for the air conditioning. I am the son of a butcher and a high school cafeteria worker. My mother drove my school bus. I worked on a farm. I fed the animals every morning and every afternoon. I started with nothing except the love of my family. We lived in a 1,200 square foot house, and but for an ROTC scholarship to Texas A&M University, I would not have went to college. I think a lot of us are that way. Texas A&M led me to the United States Marine Corps, where I served as an infantry officer in the Persian Gulf and in Somalia, and ultimately as a reconnaissance captain, commanding the 1st Recon Company of the 1st Marine Regiment. There has not been a veteran as the mayor of Houston since Bob Lanier. Now, you may not like Bob Lanier very much, but our city is broken. Are we going to be the city that we aspire to be? The city of technology, innovation, a government that works? Are we going to be the city that we're all a little worried we may become? And we're moving in that direction. If you think this 23,000 gang members in the city of Houston is not going to reach Kingwood, well, you got another thing coming. Crime. We've done nothing about drainage except dredge 2.1 miles of the San Jack River. Road maintenance. Paying firefighters, balancing the budget. And all while the city is crumbling and the infrastructure is crumbling, we have a mayor who has spent 121 days outside the city and outside the country, spending millions of dollars of our tax money all over the world. I'm not taking campaign donations. I'm not going to take a salary. I have a backbone and I have energy. It's going to take somebody with energy to beat this mayor, and I'm going to beat him.
For the following questions, they will be timed at 60 seconds each. And as a reminder, whoever answers the question first is entitled to a 30-second rebuttal if they so choose. A judge has ruled Prop D pay parity unconstitutional. If you are mayor, how will you resolve the problem and ensure rapid fire and EMT response times?
I don't care if the judge has declared it constitutional or not. We're going to pay the firefighters what the voters voted for. Period. We're going to drop the lawsuits. There's 2 pending lawsuits. We're going to drop both of them because we've already spent millions in lawyer fees, outside lawyer fees. And I've got multiple ways we can pay for Prop B. Prop B is about a $53 million proposition. I can do a 10% furlough in 1 year and pay for Prop B with $85 million bucks. I can do a 4% pay cut, give the firefighters the raise they want, and still pay for Prop B and have money left over to bonus those individuals that had their pay cut. There are 100 different ways that we can pay, and I bet Bill would agree, for Prop B. It's about a $53 million proposition. The only reason that this mayor fought Prop B is because he had a personal vendetta and was convicted about the fact that he got beat at the ballot box. It's time to move past all this foolishness. We cannot have firefighters fighting with police officers. Litigation in the city does us no good. We're going to end that when I'm the mayor.
So you're not going to hear much disagreement between Tony and I on this. I had my own reservations about Proposition B. I ultimately voted for it. Some people may have read the blog post that I wrote about it. I don't like this stuff being included in the city charter. I thought it was a lot of money at one time. But all those questions are done because the voters litigated this question, and it's over. And I agree with Tony. The idea of going down and trying to undo the will of the voters is not right. You know, I can't think hard 3 to 4 to 5 years. This is a rounding error. It is not the catastrophe that Sylvester tried to convince us it was.
And let me just say, let's not forget that the budget of the city of Houston, lay aside, the general fund is $2.6 billion or thereabouts, but the entire budget is well over $6 billion. Think about it. If you agree with my numbers, which is about $53 million to pay the firefighters, that's less than 1% of the budget. Do not tell me, having been on the Board of Regents of Texas A&M University, managing 11 universities and 7 state agencies with a budget of $4.7 billion, that we can't find 1%. We can find the money if we really want to pay the firefighters, and I think we need to do it. And we all know that we have a fire station that's still closed, 101 in Kingwood, and we need to pay our firefighters and end this litigation. Woo!
The second question is, do you believe our city is healthy and successful? If not, what would you do to change that?
Well, are you talking about the economy of the healthy economy wise, or?
It's your interpretation.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the economy since that's kind of what I know something about. So the economy of the region's great right now. But the truth of the matter is the finances of the city are a disaster. And we've got to get those fixed. And let me tell you how bad this is. I'll bet all of you think Houston's growing, don't you? Everybody here think Houston is growing? The truth of the matter is the city of Houston hasn't grown at all for the last 2 years, and for the last decade, the growth rate inside the city of Houston has been under 1%. Now the region is growing. In fact, the population estimates just released said that the SMSA, the entire region, the population is barely under 7 million. Harris County added 95,000 residents last year, but almost none of those people are choosing to live inside the city of Houston. And why is that? because there's no value proposition there. People vote with their feet. And when your roads are terrible, when you've got fewer police officers than you had 20 years ago, by the way, fewer than when this mayor got elected. You remember when he was promised we have 800 new police officers? Now in the last campaign, when you're out, you're flooding 100,000 houses and you're still taking half the drainage fee and spending on something else, people are going to not stay in the city of Houston. This is the way the catastrophe in Detroit and other cities started, and we've got to get it turned around right now.
I saw that question too, and I didn't understand it either. But let me just lay this on you, and many of you know this. $500,000 for holiday lights, $155,000 for a film consultant that lives in Beverly Hills, who has a $4,000 a month condo in Beverly Hills, $3 million at the airport for bands in the airport, a poet laureate. They just transferred money from the hot tax to the City Hall, $15.3 million to buy art. All the while, the mayor claims we can't balance our budget and we can't pay firefighters and public safety professionals. And a long time ago, back in I think 2004, Sam Houston State said we needed 1,500 more police officers on the street, and now we have fewer, and the gang violence is going nuts. Our city is awesome in a lot of ways, but it's not healthy, and we better wake up, and we got to pick somebody that can beat this entrenched mayor.
Pay for play is a common complaint since the beginning of time. If elected mayor, how would you solve it?
So some of you will recall I started writing about this in some detail about 2 or 3 years ago. And a group of lawyers got together and we drafted an amendment of our campaign finance ordinance. And it's currently being circulated as a petition. Some of y'all, I think, signed the petition every day. It does 3 things. Number 1, it limits contributions to people who do business with the city to $500 a year. It's currently $5,000 every 2 years. This is an 80% reduction. By the way, this is commonplace in most other parts of the country and even in other cities in Texas. Houston is an outlier in this regard. The second thing that amendment does is that it keeps people from sitting on boards, cities, commissions, TERS boards, those sort of things, from making campaign contributions. Those have just become a toll booth with the existing mayor and council. If you don't sit on one of those, you kind of come up and make your dues payment. The third thing is that it keeps the owners of sexually oriented businesses from making campaign contributions. This is something you shouldn't have to have a rule for, but as we recently find, our mayor is taking this money and we need the rule.
When I announced for mayor with a full-page ad in the Houston Chronicle in October of this year, it's taken it to an art form. I mean, it's an art form with this guy. Sending $36 million contract and $6 million to his law partner, and it goes on and on and on. Now, I'm not taking campaign donations. I'm going to fight it tooth and nail. I'm going to shame the city council. I love the attempt with the petition. I hope it works. I'm for it. I think he's fighting an uphill battle with it. But let me tell you how we're going to end it. I'm going to end it because I'm not taking a penny. I'm going to end it because I have the integrity to do it. I'm going to end it because I've never been involved in that system. I'm going to end it because I'm a United States Marine captain. And I have the guts and the backbone to make it happen. We're going to be the first city that's clean in city government when I'm the mayor.
30 seconds for Bill.
Well, a couple of things. For those of us that are in business and practicing law, all of us have participated in pay-to-play to some extent. For example, Tony's giving campaign contributions to judges where he has cases in their court. When I was at Linebarger, we gave contributions to people we had contracted. If you're in business, there's nothing you can do except live in the system that you're in. Frankly, it's become an extortion racket. But the other thing I want to tell you, I can self-finance my campaign. I've decided it's not the right thing to do. Because I think people ought to have a right to participate, and I don't think that public office ought to be up to the highest bidder. I got a campaign check one night. I got in late one night, and there was a campaign check in an envelope with Kingwood return address, coincidentally. It was for $30, and it had on it a little yellow sticky note that said, "Bill, we're counting on you." I'm not going to say those people can't participate in this precision.
Thank you, Bill. The homeless are a challenge confronting many neighborhoods. What steps would you take to mitigate homelessness, the encampments, and improve the neighborhoods for our residents?
Let's start with this proposition. The city says the homeless population has been reduced by 50%. Does anybody believe that? No. You drive in and out of the city of Houston in any artery, and you can see the tent cities. Now, I used to camp out a lot, tents, and, go to KOAs, and we have tent cities all over the city of Houston. We need to get, and listen, sometimes it's not always the most popular thing to do, but we got to get aggressive, and we have to be compassionate. We have 3,000 properties that the city of Houston owns that we can use, and we can make 4 different zones where this is the place that you have your clearinghouse to come get your services, whether it be insulin, health care, dental care, whether it be job placement, whether it be getting a suit to go to an interview. All these, we need to get control of this, because it's not just a humanitarian issue, it's a public safety issue. It's also an optics issue. It's an awful thing when people visit our city and we see homelessness running rampant all over our city. Do we want to be Los Angeles? No. Do we want to be San Francisco? No. Listen, we got to get every one of these great charities working together with an architecture plan, so everybody in their silos can work harder to work on this issue. I've talked about it since the beginning, and I'm going to continue to talk about it.
Now, the idea the city's got that homeless is going down is just absurd. I've asked that same question every place I've been. I haven't found a single person who believes homelessness is down. And I was up here the other night for the Cap Hope dinner, and I got here a bit early. I was over at North Park at a convenience store, and I parked behind the convenience store for a second to drink a Diet Coke while I was waiting to go over there. And I noticed some movement off in the woods beside me, and I looked over there, and there were 3 tents and several families living back there. So, it's already here in Kingwood. Look, this is an enormously complicated problem, which I can't talk about in a minute. But I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been going down and having breakfast with homeless people and trying to understand why they're there. And what you find is there's a tremendous number of pathways to homelessness. A big chunk of this is mental health. A big chunk of it is substance abuse. But I will tell you, we're increasingly finding economic homelessness with elderly people who have some kind of benefit check, but it's not enough to afford rent and food and medicine, and with young people that are phasing out of foster care. And I think we need to engage the faith community more in the solution.
Thank you, Bill. 30 seconds for Tony.
There was obviously, homeless veterans is a big issue for me. There was a study that was done. We're going to try to eliminate all homeless veterans. What they figured out was there's about 11% of the veterans that simply do not want to be helped. So I look at that and I say that's 89% of the people that we can help. 30-something% are mentally ill, 30-something% economic issues, 30-something% have addiction issues. We just need to make sure that all of our charities are working together and they have a plan from the city, some leadership, and we can make a dent in this homelessness.
Thank you, Tony. This question is for Bill.
You guys are going to have a hard time keeping 2 trial lawyers inside. I feel sorry for you and your timekeeping.
Don't start yet. No way.
We need to do the question yet. There's already time.
You gotta watch the time. Watch the time.
I think she deserves a drink.
No, then she'll really. No, I'll drink after.
Okay. All right, this question is starting with Bill. How will you balance the budget?
So what we need to do is implement zero-based budgeting. This is a technique to improve over and over in the private sector and in the government sector. Tell me just so you'll know what you're in for. Sylvester and I did 78 joint appearances in the last campaign. So this is the first one that I've done with any other candidate. So get ready. We're going to get to know each other very well. But in every single one of those forums, and there's several on video, where Sylvester promised he was going to do zero-based budgeting. He's never done it. All he's done is roll the same budget over and over and over. The operating budget of the city of Houston is about $5.2 billion. Let me ask you this question. If I make any of you the mayor of Houston, is there anybody here that thinks they couldn't save 5% at the city of Houston? Anybody think that's not possible? Of course not. That's $260 million. You can hire 2,000 police officers. You could resurface 260 lane miles. You could do drainage work from now to the next 5 years with 200. That's just on 5%, and I promise you, when you get in there and start looking at it, it's going to be a whole lot more than 5%.
I agree with, for the first time, I agree with Bill. Either whether it be zero-based budgeting or performance-based budgeting, what we're doing now is incremental budgeting, right? So it's the same thing we did at Texas A&M University System. It doesn't work because bureaucrats will spend whatever you give them. That's what they'll do. But there's other ways. You know, I believe that every department can at a minimum save 5%, probably save 10%. So whatever number Bill just threw out, which I'm kind of in agreement with, because we all disagree about numbers, but we can make that happen. We can do fee for service in our permitting department, because we need to do process audits on every department we have. But we don't generate enough revenue in the permitting department or in the fire marshal's department. But there is so many other things. What about the one bin concept? We could save $40 million a year in the way we pick up trash. There are so many things that we can do, which is almost impossible to talk about in a 1-minute answer. But let's just finish with this. We waste a heck of a lot of money, and we've got to do better, or we're going to be in the ditch.
30 seconds for Bill.
Tony, it's okay with me, because I'm right a lot of the time.
All right. Heard you say that.
Yeah. Let me just mention one other place. The TERSs now collect $175 million a year in property taxes. These were supposed to be designed for blighted communities. 65% of that money goes to Uptown, to Upper Kirby, and to Memorial City. Those sound like blighted areas to you? And by the way, in my neighborhood, they're just finishing up spending $200 million on bus lanes to nowhere. Think what you could do in Kingwood with $200 million of property tax.
Thank you, Bill. This question is for Tony. How many police officers does Houston have? How many does it need? And how will you pay for them?
It has around 5,200, okay? 2,300, which is the more important number, actually patrol, maybe a little less than that. It needs at least another 1,500 to 2,000 on patrol. And let's talk about policing, because the answer is not always more police officers. We need police officers in the communities, living in the communities, looking like the communities where they patrol. Because think about it. Crime, we always think about crime, but what's the solve rate? What's the reaction time? Right now, if there's a Category 1 call in the city of Houston, it's going to be 6 to 7 minutes response time. Category 1 means there is an assault or a murder in progress. If somebody breaks into your home, it's 3 to 4 hour response time. We got to get out of that mentality and start thinking about anticipatory policing. The CompStat program. I can't explain it to you here because many books have been written about it, but it can reduce crime by 40 to 50%, which is basically deterrence. What is deterrence? It means when you drive home today and you see a police officer and you look at your speedometer, that's deterrence. That's what we need. We need more police officers in the community to stop crime before it ever occurs.
So we get a little under 5,200 police officers right now. We're actually down 75 officers since Sylvester took office. He promises 800 new police officers by now. I don't think we need 1,500 to 2,000 police officers. That's comparing us to places like Chicago and New York, and our threat assessment is not the same as theirs. When you compare us to Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, similar cities, we probably need about another 500 police officers, and that's something we absolutely can't afford. But here's another factor. Since Sylvester's been mayor, he's cut almost 300 civilian positions out of the Houston Police Department. You know what happens when you cut a civilian position out of the police department? You take a police officer off the street and you give him a desk job. And we have to completely rethink the way our police department works, and we need to have more of our police officers out on the street in patrol and investigation. The 2,300 Tony's talking about is actually patrol and investigation. You divide that by 3 shifts, you think about how few police officers we actually have on the street, and that's a little bit scary. But investigation is what actually gets the crime rate down.
30 seconds, Tony.
You know, and it's almost devalues how important policing is for us to try to talk about this in a minute, 30 seconds. New York City has 2.2 or 4.4 police officers per 1,000 citizens. We have 2.2 police officers per 1,000 citizens. New York City is a vertical city. We're a horizontal city. We have 660 some odd square miles that our police have to patrol. Think about it for a minute. We don't really patrol anymore. All we do is react. So I respectfully suggest, number one, that we have too many of the 5,200 police officers are not on the street. We need more of those on the street, and we need at least 1,500 more police officers.
Sorry to cut you off. It's Reed. This question is for Bill. Bill, we're asking your opinion here. Too high, correctly balanced, or too low? Please explain any changes to taxation.
Let me think about it for a second. I'm just guessing that most of y'all think they're too high. Is anybody here? Especially taxing older Houstonians out of their homes. We see it all the time. Now we got some. But now the state's passed one, so maybe Sylvester will stop whining about wanting to repeal that all the time now. You know, the truth of the matter is, if you want to control taxation, you've got to control spending. The truth of the matter is, we are so far behind on infrastructure right now, I don't think that's going to be possible in the near future. All the savings that we get new gates at Lake Houston, getting North Park finished so you can get in and out here. I came out here to a meeting one morning at the Lake Houston TERS, and I was driving eastbound on North Park. I went past. Already.
We got to be honest. There's no way we're going to be able to, the city council that we're going to have, to lower property taxes or lower the tax rate. But what we can do is fight and prevent lifting the revenue cap. We can do that. And I think the wherewithal is there. Both of us agree to that. But the most important thing is, let's use the money wisely. We're not using the money wisely. I mean, we've known for more than 20 years, miles of it. Now it's 2.1 miles of it, and the mouth bar is still not dredged, and we all know we need to get smart about what we're doing. I have opened retail shops, restaurants, I've opened hotels, bought hotels out of bankruptcy, renovated them, occupied them, flipped them. I've built renovated shopping centers. I know that if you take care of your pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. And we need to be more fiscally conservative. And it should be popular to be fiscally conservative in this city. We're going to make it popular again.
I want to say one. It's a property tax cap, and what it says is the city council cannot increase property taxes about more than 3 to 4% a year. without doing what? Coming and asking for your permission. Does anybody think that's an unreasonable restriction? It's ridiculous. Let me tell you something. This mayor, in the last fiscal year, had $480 million, almost. The damn budget is ridiculous.
Thank you, Bill. This question is for Tony. And the $50 million collected in annual drainage tax revenue collected from Kingwood residents to protect us from future flooding.
Let's make sure. And we always focus on the San Jack River and that kind of. Let's prioritize them and let's start doing something. How about that?
So the entire drainage. And you do pay that $65 million. And there's also got to pay attention to the river. There's a lot of flooding that takes place. You know, this last flood that we had is not being able to get the water from the neighborhoods to the river or bayou when there's capacity. That's the city's responsibility.
Thank you, Bill.
Cutting on the forum or the format, but I just think in Kingwood and the city of Houston, policing because we all know that like the floodgates at Lake Houston, you know, that the overflow versus the spill gates versus actual floodgates so they can match Conroe. That's so important. And let's not forget, everyone. Was occurred outside of her. So just because we make it outside of hurricane season, we're not safe. We need to hit it head on.
And congestion problem troubling our city, including Kingwood.
So let me tell you what it's not. It's not transit or more light rail. Let me tell you what, you talk about a community that is, I wouldn't say a word, but what do you get? Right. Right. In 2003. Do you know what? We have fewer transit riders now than we had in 2003 when we started the light rail, and they're getting ready to ask you for another. Wood or Clear Lake or Lake Houston. You're not going to put up with that. You start that by electing a mayor that'll tell the truth about driving.
I'm not sure you answered the question about how we fix traffic in Kingwood. I don't know the answer. Studied it for traffic lights, which should be pretty darn easy? Do we make sure that developers who develop spend their money to make sure that they're not creating traffic problems so all of us are suffering? I don't know the answer. I think we can find out the answer. I think we should spend the money on finding out the answer. And it's not unique to Kingwood. It's unique to a lot of areas in the city of Houston. Traffic is terrible. Lay aside the fact that the streets are terrible. Traffic itself, some of it is synchronized with streetlights. There are places in the city of Houston. Remember old Bill White, he used to talk about synchronizing streetlights. He never did it, but he talked about it. And as far as building more rail, I think the proposition, as best I can figure it out with Metro, it's a $7 billion proposition. Can you imagine? We don't have the kind of density pockets in the city of Houston to build rail like that. That makes no darn sense. It's just more politicians, career politicians, bureaucrats, convincing us that public transportation is good and we see the buses running empty. We got to end that kind of bullshit.
Tony. 30 seconds for Bill.
Now, Tony's right, everything about Kingwood traffic. So, widening Kingwood, as you know, has been studied many, many times, and I think we've all concluded that's not a possibility without doing real violence to the nature of Kingwood Boulevard. North Park is another situation. The TERS currently has a project that will substantially increase the capacity of North Park, especially over the highway and railroad track. And it's a great project. It'll be finished during the 4 or 5 years, and it will help a lot getting in and out of Kingwood. But here's the thing you ought to be furious about. That's being paid with your own tax dollars. It should have been done years ago with the tax money you've been sending to downtown Houston.
Thank you, Bill. Quick timeout for Preston. There's questions for Tony. If you received a significant sum of money to use for the city any way you wanted or pleased, what would you do with it and why?
One of the reasons that people are moving further and further outside of Houston is because the flooding issue and the schools are failing. And people are moving further and further outside of Houston, and then we're spending billions of dollars on freeways so they can come back into Houston to work. The city of Houston, as Bill said, is dying on the vine. It's not growing. My brother-in-law is a police officer. He lives in Friendswood. I asked him, my sister's right here, I asked him, why don't you guys live in the city of Houston? He said, Tony, the only place that we can afford, there is no way I take your niece and nephew there. There's no way I could live there. If I had that kind of money, I would completely transform the way we do policing in the city of Houston. We would have a paradigm shift on the way we do policing. We will call it anticipatory policing. We will be in the areas based on data, mining the data where crime occurs, when it occurs, and we'll have police officers there, and we will dramatically decrease crime. If I had that kind of money, we would make, instead of being the most dangerous city in America, we would be one of the safest cities in America.
$6 million of title work done on it. And this is something that Ted Oberg and I, Channel 13, discovered going through documents. When it got to City Council, it had turned into a $32 million contract, and the title work had gone up from $1.6 to $6.7 million. Now, the company that did that, they went through all the title companies in the yellow pages, and they looked at them, they put their finger, and it happened to come up with Sylvester Turner's ex-partner. Can you imagine how the other $2 billion is going to be spent?
Yeah, I mean, let's 30 seconds. Guys, this is, what Bill just described. This city's sunk. We're sunk.
Thank you, Tony. This question is for Bill. With as many examples as possible, how will you expand and diversify Houston's economy?
So, this is something I've written about quite extensively. By the way, if y'all really know what I think about anything, there are 1,000 articles out there on the internet that I either wrote for the Chronicle or in my blog or one of my 2 books. So if you want to know about what I think about any topic, just Google me in the subject and you'll find out. But there's 2 areas specifically that I think we need to try to harvest more aggressively, because there's going to be a time in the future when the world's going to be burning fewer fossil fuels. And I don't know whether that's 10 years or 100 years from now, but it's out there in our future someplace, and we concentrate on as mayor.
we just voted on the board of A&M to build and invest hundreds of millions of dollars on continuing our research and our development, which we've been doing for 25 years in the medical center, Texas A&M University system. So we've been doing that for a long time. I think we need to focus more on, I like the 5G concept. 5G is the road to the future. And when I say 5G, I'm not talking about 5G, Verizon or AT&T 5G. I'm talking about the real 5G, where you can download a movie in a second and it doesn't create radioactive waves and all the health concerns that people are concerned about. You don't have to worry about eminent domain and putting stations on everybody's property. You don't have to worry about losing your privacy because there's a camera at every corner. 5G is the way. 5G leads to driverless cars, and we won't be having a conversation about metro. We won't have that conversation. We need new energy, new ideas. I'm going to talk to you hopefully about the one bin concept that will completely change the way we do waste in the world. But we need new ideas and new energy, and I believe 5G is something that some people are scared about, but that is the way to the future.
Thank you, Tony. This next question is for Tony. This is a semi-related question. Do you believe Houston's oil and gas industry is responsible for climate change? And will you make changes as mayor?
I'll answer the second question first. Am I going to make changes? The only change I'm going to make is we're going to enforce the laws that exist. We're going to enforce, we have a TCEQ. Remember, I've been suing large oil companies my entire career. My entire career on behalf of people injured, on behalf of people exposed from unlawful emissions. Sometimes the TCEQ gives them a little slap on the hand. They know that they're emitting purposely. They know they're doing it, and they know they can make more money by emitting rather than stopping what they're doing. But am I the guy that's going to go out and say the oil and gas industry of Houston, Texas is causing global warming? Whether you believe that global warming exists or not is no moment to me. The moment to me is follow the laws, enforce the law. We saw what happened recently at the ITC plant. That cost us more than $1 billion. Okay, so whether you think that oil and gas companies are good or bad, or you are on the fence about it, or you don't care, we have to enforce the laws. And that's what I've done my entire career on behalf of cities, the state of Louisiana, Texas, injured individuals, businesses, and that's what I'll continue to do as
Tony.
mayor.
Thank you, Tony. Bill.
The energy industry built Houston. We're going to be relying on many years, and I don't think we ought to do anything that undermines the significance of that industry because it's undermining our own economy. I do believe that the atmosphere is getting warmer. I do believe that's causing more rainfall, and I think it's causing storms to be worse. I think the data clearly shows that. It's not causing storms. You know, Harvey didn't come because of the climate being warmer, but it probably was 10 or 15% worse. That's what the data seems to indicate. So what the responsibility of the mayor is to plan for the likelihood that we're going to have worse storms in the future. And that means you need to be changing floodplain maps. You need to be planning infrastructure and new development, assuming that it's going to get worse. And then if it doesn't, you know what? Then we've got some wiggle room to work with. So that's the job of the mayor, not to go out and fight the philosophical battle about climate change, but how does the probability of worse storms going to affect Houston and what we do for our infrastructure, by the way, just like the U.S. military is doing right now.
Thank you, Bill. 30 seconds for Tony.
When I was Rick Perry's debate coach, don't say a word. Some of you know what I'm talking about. We used to say, we're looking for energy independence, and people laughed at him because of that. But guess what? Now the United States is energy, and we export more energy than we import, right? So we can never attack the oil and gas industry, but we can make them toe the line. And let's remember that fire that went on at ITC over and over and over. This mayor could have called in resources from Texas A&M. He could have called in resources from Houston Fire Department.
Tony.
He didn't do anything, and that's why we lost $1 billion in the ship channel.
Thank you, Tony.
Bill's trying to confuse me a little bit.
After Tony said he was Rick Perry's day coach, I thought we'll insert a new question of which cabinet position should he drop?
I can't remember the third one.
All right, we'll go to something a little bit lighter on this question. Not cooler per se, but a little bit lighter. Bill, what is your favorite place or activity in Houston to share with a visiting friend?
I would say it's Space Center Houston. You know, I grew up down at Clear Lake. When I grew up, the astronauts were our neighbors. Wally Schirra's house was around the corner. We all went swimming in his pool. Ed Borman's son played on the same football team that I played on. We used to see John Glenn at the grocery store, and of course they were all big celebrities at the time. My late brother-in-law was a research scientist at NASA, so I've got a real connection with that. And I served on the Space Center board for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, something like that. Just recently rotated off of it. And if you haven't taken your grandkids down there, you absolutely need to do it. It's an incredible experience. And if you call me, I get special rates for being an ex-board member, and I can get you in for half price.
Has anybody went to Triple J's barbecue?
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Awesome.
I take people come in out of town, and what they want to do is what they hear about, besides the crime and the drainage and the school system that's failing, is they hear about the food that we have here. I take them to Triple J's. I take them to Crawfish and Noodles over in Chinatown or Asian Town. I take them, and then I got to take them to one of Vic and Anthony's restaurants. And I take them to all these different, sometimes twice a night, and they are just blown away with the incredible diversity and the restaurant scene that we have in the city of Houston. And sometimes I will take them to the museum district, and I'll say, look how cool we are. And then I'll take them over to the third ward and say, look what work we have to do. Right? Let's not forget that we are in a dynamic, diverse, high-energy city. And the great thing about it is we have more things that unite us in this city than divide us. And I love it.
Thank you, Tony. By popular request, we'll go back to a flooding question. Because we'll skip the Rick Perry question. With all the new building of businesses, homes, and highways, once elected mayor, how will you ensure that future building adequately addresses the drainage issues of runoff waters in our city?
Look at Elm Grove. Take a look at Elm Grove. Okay, there is the poster child for development that was approved. Some would say the development was done per the permit. Some would say that it was done contrary to the permit, but no doubt about it, that development flooded many, many homes. And especially in these areas. Now look, I've developed, I can promise you, there's no mayoral candidate, all combined, has developed or built more things than I have. And I know how hard it is to deal with a city or a county to get permits. Sometimes it's incredibly frustrating. But I also know this, if you've been hit hard multiple times, and we know there's a major flooding issue here in Kingwood, and we know at least 2 developments, as we sit here, that we're quite concerned about, that have already been approved, that we all know are sitting right there in an area that's going to flood when we have the next high rain. So we got to be a little smarter about what we approve, and we got not anti-development, but how about pro-resident? We can do that.
So there's 2 things I would say about this. The first is we actually have some pretty good rules at the city of Houston. The problem is they're not enforced. And Elm Grove is a perfect example. If you go look at the drainage plan and the construction plan, it was all done according to the rules, and that should have not happened. The problem is they didn't build it the way they had permitted it, and nobody in the city of Houston was watching that. The second thing that we need to do, and this is, you may think this is controversial, but after going out and looking at dozens and dozens of flooding sites, I'm convinced we've got to do this. I think we're going to have to be more aggressive on that was about 300 acres. It was on the tax rolls up there for about $800,000. If we had bought that property for $800,000, it would have been a great green space. It would have been great flood detention. And by the way, that's about 4 days of the drainage fee that the city of Houston collects. And I've seen multiple situations in this Houston. We need to be buying properties in these infill developments and using them for green space and flood detention.
30 seconds for Tony.
And look, we're not always going to agree. Eminent domain, to me, that's a problem. Now, should we buy out areas that we repeatedly flood? Yeah, that makes sense because we're going to have to pay for it anyway. But let's be quite careful about advocating eminent domain. Because I've represented property owners where the government came in for a public use or a public good to take your property. All right, so I may not always agree with Bill King on something like this, but I'm never going to be advocating eminent domain. I'm never giving the government the opportunity to take my property.
Thank you, Tony. This question is for Bill. And a related question. What's more important for our city right now?
Hello?
I don't know what happened. Okay. I guess no one liked that question. Okay, what's more important for our city right now? Building new homes in commercial space, or rehabbing or expanding or better using our existing homes and storefronts?
The answer to this question, I'm not sure. My general opinion is that that's up to the private sector to decide. I don't think the city ought to be telling people whether they need to tear down something and build a new structure, or whether they need to be ordering them to go in and renovate something. I don't really know how I'm not sure we've got the power to do that. And the truth is, we have rules, but they don't apply to everybody. If you're a big campaign contributor, you live by one set of rules. If you're a resident or somebody that's not giving money, you live by a different set of rules. And we saw that very dramatically over in the Spring Branch area with that golf course. 100-year floodplain. You know what I'm talking about. You live out that direction. We have a 100-year floodplain. A whole subdivision was approved there right after we passed a new rule that said you can't build a 100-year floodplain. And by the way, the developer held a big campaign fundraiser for Sylvester just before the December election last time.
I agree that the government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. That's not the government's. But we can make it, we can incentivize individuals to rehab current properties. It's not always, what happens is we leave behind the properties that are dilapidated, properties that are not new anymore, and we just continue to build. It's happening right here in England. So what I would suggest is, why don't we incentivize areas within the city so people can renovate. I mean, think about it, there's 10,000 properties within the city limits that are either ready to be tax foreclosed upon, dilapidated, abandoned, and they're just sitting there. If we can incentivize developers to develop those, we don't need to keep sprawling, and spending all this money on freeways to get back to where we were. So I would never be in a position to choose, but we can certainly incentivize with regulations to renovate some of these properties that are not being used within the city limits.
This question is for Tony. In Texas, there are 178 monuments and spaces dedicated to the Confederacy. Should they be kept, removed, or modified?
Why don't you just leave them alone? I don't get it. I mean, why are we trying to forget our history? Whether it be negative or positive, why are we trying to forget it? It's where we came from. I mean, why are we trying to forget, whatever the atrocity was? All right, why don't we remember it and learn from it? Why are you trying to wipe it out and pretend it didn't exist? That's what I don't understand about these people that have this, this burning desire to remove these statues of Robert E. Lee and other individuals. My point is, look, whatever your opinion is, let's remember, history is history. Let's not rewrite it or revise it. It is what it is. Is anybody going to argue that slavery was good? No. But are we going to forget it? Because if you forget it, it could happen again. So let's try to be smart about it. And whether you're on the left or right or in the middle on this issue, let's not just say, okay, we're going to wipe out this kind of history we don't like, and we're going to remember this history we do. That's not history. That's called selective memory.
If I were to list the top 10,000 problems in the city of Houston, I was doing the Facebook, this would not make the list. And I don't spend 1 second worried about what statues are up at the city of Houston. I want to fix the drainage. I want to fix the streets. I want to balance the budget. I want to get rid of the corruption.
But listen, this issue comes up. It comes up. You can't just dodge it. You can't dodge the issue. You got to have a backbone about the issue. And you got to make your case. And I'll go anywhere and make the case. You know what? You may not like Stonewall Jackson. You may not like Robert E. Lee. You may not like this person. They're now trying to take down statues of Martin Luther King Jr. Okay? We can find something we don't like about everybody and try to wipe it out, pretend it didn't exist. I reject that. And I'll take a position on that every single time. And that's how, when I'm your mayor, that's how I'll be. I'm going to let you know how I feel about something and tell you how I feel, and then we can talk about it.
Thank you, Tony. This next question is for Bill. If someone came to you with a proposal to build a new piece of public infrastructure in our city, such as a road or a bridge, how would you evaluate whether that project was worth implementing?
Well, you need to do a cost-benefit analysis and see what the cost of the project is versus the benefit that's going to be. That's the basic analysis you ought to always use. But we also ought to take a look at how the projects are being equitably distributed around the city. And as I previously mentioned, you guys haven't had a single CIP project up here, I think, since you've been annexed, except for what TERS has done. And with the money you're spending, that's not right. But basically, the first thing is, does this make any sense from a cost-benefit analysis?
I completely agree with that. But as a person who's built a lot of buildings, first thing I want to know is why is this road needed? And I think you talked about road and bridges. Why is this bridge needed? What benefit does it provide to us? But what's the downside to that? Who's going to be impacted in this area? Who's going to be impacted by this particular road? Because typically, when you build a new road, the people that live in that area are going to be impacted. Sometimes positively, other times negatively, right? And I also agree that when we're thinking about capital projects, I don't like to use this word equity because our county judge is using that word quite often now, which is let's make sure that these Hurricane Harvey monies are being distributed fairly despite who was hit the hardest. That ain't fair in any sense of the word. So I want to prioritize our infrastructure projects. Who needs it the most? That's where we work on our infrastructure. I'm done.
Before moving to our final closing question, I want to thank everyone for being here this evening. I want to thank our candidates for being here. Thank you for taking time to be here. I did hear it's a little bit hot in here, so. Also, thank you to the media, and I want to do it.
That's the heat. That's the extra
It's the heat of the politics in here. It really heats the place up. And I want to do a special thank you to the Lake Houston Pachyderm Board for putting together. A special thank you to Ms. Leslie Chateau. She has worked tirelessly. She sends emails all throughout the night because she's working very hard to make tonight a success. So thank you. And I also want to do a big thank you to Madame Claire Vermont.
Yeah.
She's done a wonderful job, so thank you. Merci beaucoup, Madame. Oh, and one last thank you. The man of the day, Chef Eddie.
Yeah.
Hey, Chef Eddie. Thank you for having us. He's ready for a vacation after us. Okay, this final question. It will be 2 minutes each. It will serve as the closing remarks. And we ask, don't worry. We're waiting for our timer to get prepared. And we ask that our candidates, within these closing remarks, it's 2 minutes, that they answer this one question. And the question is, what is the key takeaway voters should leave with tonight that defines you as the best candidate? And as our timer gets ready, let me read it one more time. Let me stop. I'll just give you a whatever. Give it again. What is the key takeaway voters should leave with tonight that defines you as the best candidate? So as going in order, Mr. Tony Buzbee will answer first. He has 2 minutes. Thank you, Tony.
First off, thank you very much for your kind attention. I hope you learned a little bit about me because many of you probably didn't know anything about me. What is the key thing I wish you would take away? We have to beat this mayor. We have to. The whole city depends upon it. So your question in your mind hopefully will be, who has the best chance of beating this mayor? Who is the best funded? Who has the most energy? Who has the best ideas, innovative ideas? Who can beat this mayor? Who can stand next to this mayor and take it to him? Who can do that? Who has a backbone? Who is ready to fight the fight? That it's not just winning this election, which I expect to do, but it's also clearing out that morass at City Hall and serving everybody in this city. The people that are underserved. It's not just Kingwood. Kingwood's underserved, there's no doubt about it. I bet you get 1/3 services based on the tax revenue you generate. We're going to fix that. We're going to have a mayor's office representative right here in Kingwood, and we're going to make sure that we listen to every single person. Because I'm not going to know all the answers. But I'll tell you one thing. I know how to surround myself with the best people. I know how to surround myself with people that will talk honestly to me, and I will listen. That's the thing about me. I may not send a long email to you, but I'll tell you what I will do. I will act. I will do. I will take action. When I was a Marine, I learned very quickly. You're going to be either a leader or a follower. I'm a leader, and we're at the crossroads now, and we need a strong leader, and I want to be that leader. And if you care about that, if you're into that, if you want to be part of our team, please see our people at the back. Get a bumper sticker, get a yard sign. We'd love to have you on the team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tony Buzbee.
So let's talk for a second about who's best to beat Sylvester Turner. There's one person in this room that got 105,000 votes in 2015. There's one candidate that started at 2% in 8th place and got up to 49.4% in the runoff. And by the way, we were out spinning that race almost 10-1 by all the other candidates. There's one candidate in this room that has over 80 Republican precinct chairs who have currently endorsed that candidate. And by the way, about a dozen Democratic precinct chairs. There's only one candidate that the president of the National Pachyderm Club has endorsed already. There's only one candidate that has over 1,400 endorsements from grassroots activists, civic club presidents, super neighborhood presidents, business owners, and residents from all over this city. But look, let's move past that for a second and talk about who's best prepared to lead the city. In 2006, I sold one of my companies, and at that point in time, I didn't have to work so hard anymore. And I remember there's something I learned in African-American churches, Gabe, a saying that says, you learn, you earn, and then you return. And like Tony, I grew up in modest circumstances. My dad was a pipe fitter. I worked my way through the University of Houston, got out and did fairly well. And there's also a scripture, by the way, in Luke about it. To those who much has been given, much is expected. And so for the last decade, that's how I felt about the city of Houston. And so I've studied these issues in detail. I've been out and looked at drainage ditches. I've been down and visited with homeless people. The audit just came out. 383 pages. I've read every page of it. And by the way, I've read the 10 before that. I promise you this. There will never be a person walk through the doors of the mayor's office in the city of Houston ever who was better prepared to get the city turned around than Bill King is. When you're helping November this year, I'm going to get there. I want everybody in Kingwood and Lake Houston to go vote in that runoff this time, and let's take this guy out.
Thank you, Mr. Bill King. And before we adjourn, two things. Okay, one, see Miss Leslie Chateau for membership. Everyone go find her. And number two, I want to thank Miss Colleen Rhodes for being our timer tonight. That's a tough job. Okay, that was Bill's microphone. Okay, everybody, we will see you in September for the City Council Forum. And thank you again. Have a great summer. Thank you for coming.